All right, cool. So I guess we'll start today's episode by wishing Raymond a happy birthday.
Happy
Happy birthday,
birthday.
Raymond.
Happy birthday.
I hope you enjoyed this little surprise when you start listening. Okay. So, chapter 10, and each of the chapters starts with these little previews of or beats of what's going to happen in the chapter, and they're a little bit cryptic, or sometimes they're entirely on the nose. So, chapter 10 is Tobin, the skirmishes on the Little Colorado, the Catabasis, How came the learned man, Clanton and the judge, a new course, the judge and the bats, Quano and the deserts, or the deserters. Sorry. Uh, Seardor, you were saying that chapter 10 was your favorite, so I figured you'd lead. I had a few good laughs with this one too.
Oh yeah, so it's they get on, or Tobin, the ex-priest, kind of gets on telling the kid about how they ran into the judge, and it's colorful to say something. So from my recall, they on a previous campaign, this Glanton's company is kind of blown out into the desert and just being pursued by the Indians, and who I think the Apaches are hunting. And they come upon the judge just in the middle of the desert, sitting on a rock. He describes it as if he brought the rock, like he's just sitting there, smiling, big as like he just happy to see them. And somehow he draws them in. There's something about the judge that it gets into people's minds, or he gets into people's minds, and can get them to just do what he wants. And so he just kind of attaches himself to this company that's ostensibly led by Glanton, but the judge kind of leads them where they may,
Yep.
and still being pursued by these by the Apaches. I think it was Apache. It might be a different tribe, but he basically drags them on what seems like a ridiculous kind of almost fetch quest. We're going here, we're grabbing this, we're doing that and the other thing. And it kind of, and the whole time they're going up and up the mountain, up and further up to kind of give them space. And it ends with him literally kind of tossing them into like a little pit he's dug, and just having everybody piss in the all in the mixture, and he's sitting
So,
there
yep.
working it.
But before that, I think the big point is that the Glanton's crew is lost in the desert and they have no gunpowder. And just
Yes.
the way that this is all going, it seems to be that if you're not killing someone when you're out in this area of the desert, you're probably going to get killed. So the giant fetch quest is just a giant quest to go and make gunpowder, which is its own just sort of funny. So, like Astrid, was saying, it ends with them all pissing in a pit as the judge is there, like frantically making gunpowder.
Grinning too, just like
Yep.
mixing it all together, and then spreads it across the rocks and lets it to dry. And it seems to just be perfect timing. It dries in time. And they ambush the pursuers by the judge essentially firing. I think it was 11 people, or no, 12 people, because this is, I think, also significant with the judge over 13. He fires off 12 times and then waves like a white shirt, essentially going, "Oh no, I'm here, I'm safe." And then as the Apaches come up, they just blow them all away.
Are y'all aware that there's some deeper symbolism between that scene and I believe it's Paradise Lost? There's a similar scene on a mountain where the devil is basically making gunpowder, and it's basically a reference to further themes later in the book. The judge is not a good guy, but yeah.
Yeah,
I think we
no,
caught that part. Yep.
yeah, I did not know about the Paradise Lost connection.
Yeah,
But
it's a
just
kind of a
to,
reference to it.
I guess, just to get it out of the way, the judge is probably mostly Satan, at least thematically, if not literally.
Oh yeah.
Right,
I,
yeah.
I also think there's an aspect of like Satan as like the representative of war, like the one that kind of whispers in men's ears to cause violence in war. Because certainly at this time, that was kind of like the judge of men. Like you go off into these horrifying conditions, and either the desert breaks you, or you come back, you know, uh, celebrity almost.
Yep. We also got the judge's gun.
Oh, the
So
So
cool.
in Arcadia Eco. So
yeah. So
anyone,
even in
even in Arcadia, there I am. I being death.
yeah, so it's like even in
Paradise.
paradise, the best
Yep.
place, death will always be there. So yeah, and comment how he'd never heard a gun named that. They're always women's names or something catchy.
We also get that the judge is really fat. He's 24 stone.
Well, he's just massive. He's a topping 7 feet.
I was
Yep.
picturing muscular.
Yeah, he's just like, imagine some dude who's like 7 feet or I think maybe even over, or just
I'm
just
imagining like a
massive.
giant Buddha. Just the way that he's described is like hairless and bald.
Yeah, not a hair on his butt, like not even eyelashes, not eyebrows, nothing. Which also kind of reminds me, just him being hairless and gross in general reminds me kind of a little further on when they come into one of the towns. I think Eurus, what is the capital of Sonora. They all get in the bath, right?
Yep.
And kind of it's all
But
like just getting rid of all the filth on them, but only the judge, when he gets in the bath, does it like actually increase the level visibly. Like he gets in and like the filth rises, and he sits like right at eye level in the filth and just is at home in it.
before we get on to the next chapter, I do just want to say that chapter 10 ends with the meme. So it's Tobin and the kid asks Tobin, so what is the judge of? And Tobin just basically tells him to shut the hell up. So
Yeah.
this is based on what? Shut up? Which is just great. We
Yeah.
got
Oh,
the
I love
meme
that.
like 20.
Hush now, the man will hear you. His ears like a fox, which is funny because they also describe him as having very small ears. So it's like kind of contradictory.
Yep. So
That
anyone
kind of
else
makes
have
sense though. Like the judge seems to like not. He gets as much knowledge as he can, but he doesn't want other people to really have knowledge like about him. So it's very interesting.
About anything, even.
Yeah, bingo. He's a very
Anything,
interesting character.
yeah, anything that exists without my consent,
Yep,
or anything that exists that I don't know about exists without my consent.
that's in one of the later chapters, I think, or at least in
Yeah,
this
yeah,
section.
like 13 or 14, when one of the guys asks him about why he's always sketching in his
Why he's
little
sketching in
journal.
his book, yeah, and then he tells him not to do him. But chapter 11, Into the Mountains, Old Fairham, the Delaware carried off, the search, another probate in the gorge, the ruins, Keat Steel, the Soleret, representations and things. The judge tells a story, a mule lost, Mescal pits, night scene with the moon, Blossom's judge, the village, Clanton on the management of animals, and the trail out. So go through my notes for chapter 11.
Yeah, I don't remember this one as well off the top of my head. I really should take notes.
Can't hurt.
Now, unfortunately, I'm a writer who doesn't write, who doesn't know how to read. So it is what it is.
Difficulties of life. So chapter 11 starts with one of the Delaware Indians getting carried off by a bear.
I don't mean to laugh, but it is. It's just this land is so brutal.
Yeah, just out of nowhere.
Dude, for real. It's like comically evil.
So this is one of the interesting things that I wrote in my notes. The Delawares, they go after their so like Clanton's crew has like different groups within it. And the Delawares seem to be like one of the more cohesive ones, at least. So this is a case where like one of the Delawares gets attacked and mauled and carried off by a bear, and then the other Delawares go after the bear, which you would seem like no one else in the crew would even try to do for anyone else.
Didn't they go out there for like 3 days too? That was wild.
Yeah, they go after him for 3 days. They don't find anything.
That's what's really interesting about this kind of their whole lives in general is, groups will break off for days at a time, scouting or doing whatever, and then come back. Just very wide land. There's a real just like sense that this land is huge and there's not a lot there.
I was actually wrong. So this was the point where we start talking about the judge and his book, because the judge likes to sketch. And then after the judge finishes sketching something, he'll destroy it or burn it, just anything to get rid of the actual article while he has like the recording. So there's the Tennessean Webster, and he asked the judge why he's drawing, and then this is where he says, "Don't draw me. I don't want in your book." Then here it is. Whether in my book or not, every man is tabernacled in every other, and he in exchange, and so on, an endless complexity of being and witness to the uttermost edge of the world. So that we get everyone is interconnected, whether they like it or not.
Yep. I don't know. I don't have much useful to add there.
Where is it? Get another one where I just wrote in my notes, Webster gets trolled. Let me see if I can find this one. Here we are. I'll stand for my own witness, said Webster, but by now the others had begun to call him his conceit. And who would want to see his bloody portrait anyway? And would there be fights break out in great crowds awaiting its unveiling, and perhaps they can tar and feather the picture lacking the article itself? So basically, shut up, Webster. No one wants to see your picture anyway. What would they do with it anyway? And if they saw it, would they just, tar and feather it because they couldn't do it to you?
They're so lovely.
They are. I think they're a great crew. They absolutely. It's interesting because later chapters, I'm not entirely sure whether they all hate each other or whether there is like some kind of camaraderie, honor among thieves or barbarians or whatever you want to call it.
I think it's such a brutal undertaking that there's almost like an unspoken code, like kind of that scene later. Like you don't just leave wounded people, you take them out because if you leave them for the Apaches, it's gonna be way worse for them.
That and the like later hanging when their guys were hanging, they had the like dignity to cut them down. So it kind of sparked a thing with me that I think they do care, but it's interesting the way they show it.
Yeah, they can only care so much because like anything, a bear can come and just take your homie away. So they care enough as long as it keeps the company functional.
Yeah. Then one of the sections in this chapter was the judge tells a story. It seems like the judge tells two. So one of the stories that he tells is regarding Webster's asked to not draw his picture, and he tells a story of a Hueco Indian who had his picture drawn. He was terrified of what would happen to it. So the Hueco tracked down the judge, and together they went and they buried the portrait in a mountain cave somewhere, so that nothing would ever come to it. I got a little bit of picture of Dorian Gray vibes from that, but I don't know if anyone else.
I have not read that.
You're the 40K fan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know how they ruined Fulgrim and they made him possessed by an alien? He's got a picture of actual Fulgrim.
Wait, what? Oh, by the way, I gotta preface that with I live under a rock and I'm a grumbly old man, so usually there's a point in a timeline where I just stop giving a shit, and the more woke that Games Workshop gets, the less I pay attention. So no, that's news to me.
All right, disregard that then. I don't pay attention to new shit either. But yeah, picture of Dorian Gray is the guy who like presents with eternal youth, and every evil thing he does is like trapped in his soul, which is like in a portrait that he has hidden, and the portrait is like his actual self. So there's part of that. I'm sure there's some different Native American things about how their likeness or their portrait being somewhere is sacred, whether that's the different stories of photographs or things like that. But yeah, just turns out the judge is an okay guy because he goes and he helps an Indian sleep better at night.
Yeah, unless he does what he normally does and shot him, which they don't describe, but it just seems to be a habit with this guy that he goes off alone with people and then he comes back dead with them.
So there is the other story that the judge tells, which is a story of he's a harness maker who lives like out in the middle of nowhere with his wife and kids. And to get extra money, he dresses up like a poor native, and he goes and he begs for money. So there's part of the story where the harness maker goes to beg for coins, and a young man, refused to give him coins because he also realized that he was a white guy pretending to be an Indian. So I just wanted to point out that in the modern day of Liz Warren, this is hysterical.
Yes.
So the poor white guy is ashamed because he was pretending to be an Indian.
That's awesome. I love that so much now.
And what's the exact words? Ingratitude is more common than you might think. The harness maker wasn't satisfied. And he began to question this is when like he gives him a coin out of pity, and he asks for more.
Yeah, this dude seems to push his luck a lot.
And then what's interesting is after that one, it seems like everyone in the company is intimately familiar with this story. Like they all just start crying out that like the way that the judge told the story was wrong. He wasn't a harness maker; he was a shoemaker. They cleared him of the charge. Oh, right, he gets framed for a murder, or he commits a murder and he hides it. Yeah. And then like everyone else in the company is saying that he didn't live in the wilderness. He lived in the center of Cumberland, Maryland. They never identified where the bones came from. The old woman that was crazy, the one that found it. My brother was in the casket, and he was a minstrel dancer out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Was shot to death over a woman. And under all these protests, the judge raises his hands.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'm not sure. I think it has something to do with the fact that the story is universal. Like there's something going on there with the kind of comment about how the son has to inherit like his father's death, like that's like a right of his, something like that. I feel like it's wrapped up in that, like maybe that's a common experience they've all had, or something like that. But it's like it's
this is what it was. The guy that came around to give the coins goes off into the woods. And then the harness maker kills him and hides the body, and he steals his gold. The harness maker lived until his son was grown, never harmed anyone else. But yeah, this is all the people in the company that are saying that the judge's story is bullshit, and they know exactly what story he's talking about, and they're going to tell him exactly why his version of the story is wrong.
Yeah, there's that line or this like paragraph just after that. I'm not sure if it's significant. It's let me piece this out. Again, I should have taken notes here. But the Tobin is talking to the judge. It strikes me, he said, that the son is that either son is equal in the way of disadvantage. So what is the way when they're talking about the two different ways that the kids were raised? And he goes on, they should be set to puzzle off their proper clues to the one of the three doors, blah, 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 that does not harbor wild lines. Like, hold on, the question was put all in earnestness. And the answer, said the judge, if God meant to interfere in the degeneracy of mankind, would he not have done so by now? Wolves call themselves men. What other creatures could? as a race of man not more predacious yet, the way of the world is to bloom and to flower and to die, but in the affairs of men there is no waning, and the noon of his expressions signals the onset of night. His spirit is exhausted at the peak of its achievement. His meridian is at once his darkening and the evening of his day. If he loves games, let him play for stakes. Which is also kind of interesting because like the last thing we leave off with is the judge, messing with the meteorite, taking essentially wagers, and Glanton wouldn't take the last wager. Like nobody would. I don't know.
That
I feel like
was
that's all connected somehow.
that's chapter 16 when he's throwing the hammer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the anvil. Anvil made the meteorite. So yeah, like I said, there's something there, and I'm too stupid to piece it out. So we'll present that to you guys.
Then there's this part where the judge is very scary. The judge looked about him. He was sat before the fire, naked save for his breeches. His hands rested palm down upon his knees. His eyes were empty slots. None among the company harbored any notion as to what the attitude implied. Yet so like an icon was he in his sitting that they grew cautious and spoke with circumspection among themselves, as if they would not waken something that had better been left sleeping. So,
Did you all?
they're afraid.
I think I missed it, but above that, like where the judge was talking about the kid, how kids should be raised. I don't know. I was thinking about how that literally like describes a kid. It's at a young age, said the judge, they should be put in a pit with wild dogs. I think he, like, I don't know. That's crazy how much he described the kid. How the kid basically did that himself, going brawling, traveling. So I think there's some connection there with the
Well,
judge.
explains why the judge seems to have taken a liking or special attention to the kid.
Yeah, I wonder if that was the judge himself.
Good catch, and I skipped that one.
That's probably like a little foreshadowing, like because they have fun times later on in the book.
Yeah.
Well, they should be made to run naked in the desert. I feel like that describes half the book.
So true.
Right.
Oh, and that chapter ends with Glanton befriending the dog. And
Yes, it
what does he
does.
say?
He
I
what
can
is it?
man anything that eats. Get me a piece
Get
of
me a
jerky.
piece of jerky. Yeah. Brown comes back with a dried meat, and the dog was looking about uneasily. When they rode west out the canyon, it was trotting with a slight limp at the heels of Glanton's horse. So, what's interesting is like this is like one of the most humane and nice things that Glanton does, and compared to like everything else he does in the next few chapters, it's for me it was really jarring. I don't know if anyone else felt that.
Yeah, it's very indicative of like kind of that far gone psychopath mentality where you'll care more about an animal than you do about people. But I also think it refers to like his attitude of the desert. Like the desert is eating all these people up, and he can man anything that eats. So it's like the more gunpowder and bodies he throws at this whatever he's chasing, he can do it. It's like almost him reassuring himself.
And here's another one as far as like how well the company gets along. And then the company sat among the rocks without fire or bread or camaraderie any more than banded apes. So very standoffish, but it's a bit of both. Like we've been saying, they'll put each other out of their misery. They'll go after each other. They'll also, be mercilessly ribbing one another's brotherhood and camaraderie. But like the actual physical violence is also there.
Yeah, it's like again with the contract thing, like when the kid when nobody would pull the arrow out of I can't remember whose leg.
It wasn't Brown, was it?
Maybe I can't remember. I always mix up the
Yeah,
names
it's
'cause there's
Brown. It's Brown, and he said a very funny word. We're actually in that chapter now.
Yeah.
So that's chapter 12. And because we're already there, boys, said Brown, I'll doctorify it myself, but I can't get no straight grip. Doctorify is my new favorite word.
Yeah, doctorify it. Excellent.
Yep. And then Tobin tells the kid afterwards, "Don't you know he'd have took you with him? He'd have took you both, like a bride to the altar." So I'm not sure if the implication there is that he would have killed him, or
Yeah, it's almost like you do it and you succeed, because if you fail, it kills him. So it's like you're not going to go out without killing the guy who killed you, like no matter who it is, no matter what's going on.
yeah. And I guess context for everyone else, this is after they get into a fight with, I think, the Apaches, and Brown has an arrow sticking straight through his thigh, and he can't yank it out himself, and it hasn't gone through. So it's like lodged in there. So I think part of getting the grip done is that the kid has to push it through so that the tip of the arrow will go through his leg. Then they can break off the tip, and then I guess they can withdraw the rest of the shaft. Doesn't seem like the smartest way to do it, but okay.
I mean,
I wasn't there.
if it's barbed enough,
Nope.
or it fits like out, and it's brutal to think about. He's just doing it. No painkiller. I don't even think he had whiskey.
No, it seems they drink whiskey as soon as they get it.
Yeah, so if he did, they didn't describe it. So that's rough, just raw dogging it.
So the start of this chapter, they go with, they rode like men invested with a purpose, which is interesting to me because it doesn't seem like they really have a purpose. I think this is the chapter where they get through the yeah, this is the chapter where they finally reach the Apache camp. And so at the start of this, they're invested with a purpose, supposedly from the book. At noon that day, the partisans rode out, each man armed with a pair of pistols, took the road up country. Here we are. This one I also thought was, I don't know if I'm misunderstanding this one, or if like the book itself is just being very hyperbolic, or if they're actually just this capable of destroying this much. There's 19 of them. The partisans, 19 in number, bearing down upon the encampment where there lay sleeping upwards of 1,000 souls. So they found the Apache camp. There's 19 of them on horseback, and they're just going to run roughshod through this camp, kill as many people as they can, get scalps. And it's either hard to believe or incredible that 19 people do as much damage as they do.
That's so true. That's weird. I forgot it was that low. Wow.
Yeah, I think it's like a combination of, it's supposed to show like the technological difference, but also it's at night, and if you have a bunch of people just kind of sitting around a fire at night, and then suddenly people are running in guns blazing, you're not quite sure how many people are riding in, so there's like a panic aspect.
It's also not just this, because they destroy multiple towns in that group of 19, and they keep getting smaller because they keep dying. Like the number keeps going down.
They're barely growing too, like maybe 1 and 2 a couple chapters later, but it's at eventually it's gonna get to like 3, 4 left. Wonder when that
Yeah.
time will be.
Yeah, they're just really high level though. That
They are.
they're leveling up. But no, it is. It's like the desert has shaped them into monsters. Like, this is not Captain White's company that just got rolled over by Apaches. Which
Yep,
even
that
they
was
weren't all that many. They were like 46 or whatever. But
when
they're
Glanton's company gets introduced. I thought there were a lot more too.
yeah, a good handful have died up to this point. I think there were still about like 30 or 40, like
Mhm.
about that number as well. But even when they described them coming in, they're necklaces of ears and just kind of way far more brutal looking, like beasts among men, kind of.
then the word choice of partisans, I'm not sure if that one struck anyone else as odd. As far as the description of Glanton's company or his party.
Oh, yeah.
So partisans, I usually think of like the French Resistance. So it's like a patriot or like a hardline party guy. They're not. I who am I to question McCarthy? But
And that was right before he says that like right before the major slaughter too, so that's interesting.
yeah, but who are they patriots for? Like they don't seem to be.
Themselves? Oh.
I think it's like an ironic thing because a lot of them they talk about conquering or taming that land for America. They maybe individually while they're out there, it's not really discussed among them, but in early on, especially like the formation of those free companies, they're ostensibly going in as Americans, being like rah rah America, we're here to get rid of the Apaches for you guys.
We also learned that Glanton isn't welcome back in the States.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's odd. I know I would say the judge is a like patriot for himself, kind of. I don't know, but I don't know what the other people would be. I especially with the kid. I don't know. Still don't exactly have a big motive for him.
Yeah, he's still just drifting.
Oh, you know
Yeah.
what?
He
They're
hasn't
probably
found his purpose.
patriots of the like violence and the war. Patriots of war, I guess.
Could be. Then here's where we learn about Miguel, John Miguel, Juan Miguel.
Yeah, they just completely whitewash his name. Like, we
I-
can't pronounce that, so you're John McGill now.
Yep. So in the notes at the top of the chapter, we have the death of Juan Miguel. At no point in this entire chapter do I think do they ever clarify that Juan Miguel is John McGill.
I think in like the very first mention of him, they say
Nope.
Miguel called McGill, something like that, but maybe not. Yeah, I think this is just the only real hint we get.
Yep. So we've got a Mexican in Glanton's company, John McGill, and he's injured during this fight, and they just scalp him like anyone else.
And scalp's a scalp. They're not gonna, when they're
And
paying you for the scalps, they're not gonna forensic test because they can't. Whether that's an Apache scalp or a Mexican scalp, it's dark skin and darker hair. Okay. And that's literally kind of what ended up happening, like kind of in the historical side of this is, companies went over ostensibly to kill the Apaches, and then they realized, oh, there's just a bunch of little towns that nobody like ever goes to. We can just kill those people, and chaos ensued.
yeah, and this is as historical as it is. This is one of those like queasy stomach feelings of just like absolutely no camaraderie, nothing of the sort. So like he gets injured. Someone in the party executes him.
I think it was Glanton.
Yeah, get away from him, said Glanton. Miguel turned to look at Glanton. As he did so, Glanton leveled his pistol and shot him through the head. Oh.
Damn. Dude,
Then
I don't get it. It's like a ping pong game. Sometimes they care about their gang members, and then other times they're like, because that is the most disrespectful thing you could do.
They're all over the place as far as whether or not they care about each other.
Yeah, I don't think it's care. I think it's the contract.
I guess so.
Would you call it a social contract?
Guess so. Oh, here we go. This one I also found very funny. So they've gone through the entire camp. The Apaches are like running for the hills, and there's like a war chief that they're basically hunting down before they get away. Because this entire time they've been going after Gomez. So they get the war chief, or who they think is one, and they look at the body, and it's the judge and Glanton, and they're going, that's not Gomez. It's like, it's not him, why not? Right? Glanton turned the shaft, the head with its long dark locks swung about to face him. Who do you think it is if it ain't him? Judge shook his head, it's not Gomez. He nodded towards the thing. The gentleman is Sangre Piro. Gomez is Mexican. He ain't all Mexican. You can't be all Mexican. It's like being all mongrel. That's not Gomez because I've seen Gomez and it's not him. Will it pass for him? No. So here's where Glanton does not give a shit about Gomez for the sake of killing Gomez. I didn't put that one together until now. Like, he's just happy to collect a contract, and I guess he's got a good price on his head.
Yeah, it's just the kind of like it's what those people do.
I assumed that there was some kind of vendetta. Yeah, it's on me for assuming purpose. But yeah, I thought this was great. That's not the guy we're looking for. Do you think it'll pass for him? No. Damn it.
Yeah, whoops. Oh well.
It's not even a whoops. It's just like, uh-oh. It's like,
Yeah.
oh man.
An
Like,
shit.
darn.
Yeah, Glanton is quite a ridiculous person.
But here's another one where they're done with the fight. When they halted, Glanton ordered fires built and the wounded seen to. So this is another thing of like bouncing back and forth between whether or not they care about the wounded. Because like even McGill's injury didn't seem that severe.
I think it depends on the level. Like how much of their resources is it going to take to patch you up, kind of thing. Like if it's just too much, then it's just not worth the effort. You know, scalp them and we'll buy somebody else when we, go into contract somebody else, but just kind of replace them later on.
Oh no, McGill was injured pretty badly. So he's skewered with a lance. So he's just been run through. And then that's when they execute him.
Yeah, I don't think a butterfly stitch is going to get that one.
Nope.
Sadly, they don't even have butterfly stitches back then, so they couldn't have tried.
What?
Oh.
No band-aids. Oh, we're fucked.
No Flintstone gummies, no Band-Aids, no antiseptic except for alcohol. Whether or not they used it for that is questionable.
No Flintstone gummies. Damn, that is rough.
Oh, this is also the chapter where we learn that Toadvine has a soul.
Huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's kind of like how the people who surround the kid are. It's like they're all kind of degenerates and murderers, but like of the least bad of them seem to be the kid, Toadvine, the priest Tobin.
Yep. So, this is the
Hey,
part
real
where
quick,
after...
something.
Oh, good.
Sorry, something fun to point out about that comment about maybe them being the best people in the group. I feel like a lot of the scenes about when it comes to the violence and how it's described and stuff like that, it's not really said what the kid is doing in those moments. He's just kind of there. It's not like assumably he'd be taking scalps and everything along with these people, but to my knowledge, at least, I don't really think it's ever explicitly said an action that he's doing when he's killing somebody or something.
Not in these chapters now.
Yeah, very rarely. Also,
Yeah,
I
so
literally. Sorry, go ahead.
it's left a little vague. It's left a little vague, so like you can interpret it as that maybe the kid isn't like a bad such. Sorry, maybe he is just as bad as the rest of them, but he could also just be like watching all this violence unfold in front of him and him just kind of being there.
I never got the impression that he's doing like the no violence version of No Russian.
Right.
There's something I just put together, just now. And with that group of three, there's almost like a twisted Trinity thing you got going on. Because Toadvine, the older person, kind of takes almost like close to a fatherly role to the kid, father son. And then you have Tobin, the ex-priest, who is also just completely, and not actually holy, but the closest thing you got in that company. And there seem to be the only three that have like anything resembling a soul.
Yeah. So this is the point where they're done running through the group. The judge is sitting with an Apache boy that they're basically torturing. They're like making him laugh. They're making him laugh, and it seems like they're being kind to him. And then like they turn away for a second, and the judge has executed the Apache boy and taken his scalp. And then Toadvine is there, ready to blow his head off. And then the judge does the I don't know, the power play of shoot me or put it away. Yeah, either shoot or take it away, do it now. And then Toadvine puts the pistol away.
Reading that, I was actually expecting to find the shoot and then like his gun not to work, but I thought something else had
Yep.
to happen there. But you know,
That would have been a cool detail.
And
yeah,
then
right.
yep. Then after that, they make it to the city of Chihuahua, and they're greeted like heroes. And this is the point where they just go full degenerate.
Oh yeah, they come in as heroes and then they leave as villains.
Yep.
It's the contradictory, weird nature of what they're doing. It's just all over the place. They're
Any other
so
stuff
free,
in
they're
chapter
chaos.
12? Oh, sorry.
I was say they're
Yeah.
just so free, they're chaotic.
Absolutely. Any other stuff in chapter 12?
I can think of.
All right. On chapter 13, at the baths, merchants, trophies of war, the banquet, Trias, the ball north, Koyame, the border, the Hueco tanks, massacre of the Tigwas. I think that one didn't even get a sentence. Karzal, a desert spring, Medanos, an inquest concerning teeth, Nikori, the cantina, a desperate encounter into the mountains, a village decimated, mounted lancers, a skirmish, pursuing the survivors, the plains of Chihuahua, slaughter of soldiers, a burial, Chihuahua, and westward. So this is where they tell us that there were 128 scalps and 8 heads. As far as what they've collected, they're coming into town. They're big goddamn heroes. Everyone loves them because they've taken care of this Apache group that has presumably been terrorizing the people. And they get invited to eat with the governor. And they eat a lot. So I think they eat out the governor's palace as far as their stores. The governor has to go to some neighboring business. They eat all of that. I think they drink all of his alcohol, which is all very impressive for, at this point, probably, I don't know, 15 guys?
Yeah, they completely drain the town. Like, gets to the point where they have to go and like ransack homes and businesses and just start piling things on the table because they've eaten everything.
Do you think that shows any like maybe their generosity and the scarcity of the land? Like the fact that these people are being so welcoming and they just keep taking and taking and taking.
Yeah,
You know, give a mouse
They
a cookie
do
kind of situation.
they do it repeatedly. Like they're welcomed
Yeah.
into 3 more towns after this for whatever reason. And every single one they go into, they either ransack, they get into fights with the police or whatever authorities are there or soldiers. Um, they're very bad guests.
Yeah, they're broken men, and I think it comes down to, you know, when they run into the judge in the desert, they chose to go with the judge. I know there's like this kind of Jesus in the desert type of thing that they fail, and it's like once you let that into your life, then there's almost like no coming back.
I had
Yep.
not considered that perspective. That's interesting that he like the judge like led them astray, possibly.
Well, it's almost like
Or
the desert is the metaphor for like the real trial, like the trial against Satan, like the bottom point that you could be at. And they were like quite literally in the desert, and in the middle of that desert is Satan, the judge. And rather than ignoring him, moving on, killing him, whatever, they take him, and they're able to live. That keeps them alive in the short term, but it damns their souls in the long term.
yeah, yeah, that's pretty good.
I guess where we're going with that too. The judge, I guess, does bring them a little bit, I guess, safety and wealth for their life. Well, as much wealth because they do take freely, so technically they've got enough stuff. And then he
It's like
provides some
the
gunpowder, so you know.
Yeah, it's like the Crossroads deal. Like you do get something out of it. It's just it doesn't end well for you.
Yep.
That's the classic devil's deal. Is like he never comes to you and just goes "mwahaha, do bad thing." He says, "Hey, here's some. I'm giving you the ability to survive, but through that, you're choosing to live without God." That's at least the kind of framework that mindset would be coming from. But it's interesting to see it played out here, where it's not exactly salvation. They're already broken men, but now that they've kind of accepted him into their company, he just kept leading them down that road, which only leads to hell and damns their soul on this path of destruction.
Yep. On a brighter note, this one also made me laugh. So this made me very, very proud as a Mimi American. They're having the feast with the governor of whatever this town or the mayor. Patriotic toasts were drunk, the governor's aides raising their glasses to Washington and Franklin, and the Americans responding with yet more of their own country's heroes, ignorant alike of diplomacy and any name at all from the pantheon of their sister republic. So the Mexican governor is toasting, America's founding heroes, and the Americans toast more American founding heroes, and they have no idea about any of the Mexican founding heroes.
Yeah, it sounds about right. That's par for
Yep.
the course.
That's just great.
There's America, and then there's like some other places, whatever.
Yeah, there's America and not America yet.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is just all of them being debaucherous.
Yeah, and they start dragging in like names of whoever, names of like prostitutes, just
Yeah.
like, this one whore from this town was, she had great boobies, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Just
And
oaths.
the townspeople, charcoal scrawls appeared on lime-washed walls, mejorless Indios. So the townspeople, after dealing with Glanton's company, would rather be dealing with the freaking Apaches.
Yeah,
Um,
barbarian.
yeah. This is later on in the chapter. We learn that Glanton is not welcome in America. So they're traveling up to the Texas border, a soil where Glanton was subject to arrest.
Oh yeah, they described that, and they also is this also the same chapter where they describe how he has a wife and a kid he'll never see again. Basically,
Yep.
just left his family behind. Like, deuces, guys.
Should
I'm
be
gonna go
like the
kill
paragraph right
Apaches.
before that. Yep.
Oh, by the way, and just to confirm, I did look up on Grok for the thing we were talking about earlier with the Native Americans and pictures. It does seem that there are some beliefs about like capturing the soul in images and stuff like that.
Yep. Oh, I knew there was something about that.
Yeah, some tribes like the Navajo have specific taboos or rules about creating images on certain beings, stuff like that. So,
Is that where the origin of that the Day of the Dead holiday in Mexico come from, where they have like pictures of their family and such? Man,
possibly.
I've just never heard of that from Native American tribes.
Well, who knows? Photography is new, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is also where we get Glanton's wife and child that he would not see again.
Yeah, later on in the chapter, after they leave in utter disarray and not all that well liked. I think they essentially send troops out after them, right?
Yeah, they start pretty soon after this. I think that's the next chapter when they get into fights with the soldiers. This one also stood out to me. Just one sentence: in 3 days, they would fall upon a band of peaceful Tigwas camped on the river and slaughter them every soul. So this doesn't even get like. There's another one in a later chapter where it doesn't even get a full sentence, but like this is just how nonchalant they are with the violence that they're doing. Just so before with the Apache camp, like we got what, a couple pages dedicated to that. This we get this.
I think
Yeah,
I had to
it's become
backtrack
routine.
when I read that because I was like, did I read that right? Did I miss something? Is my book right? Because it was
Yeah.
just like one sentence, and I was like, they didn't say anything else. That's crazy. Crazy how
Yeah,
far
like
they've fallen.
the killing has just gotten that routine that it's not even worth describing.
Oh, it's this chapter where they run into the soldiers.
Yeah, lancers who decide to
Yeah,
charge a bunch of dudes with guns.
and yeah, I wrote in my notes here. It's like there's 18 people left in Glanton's company, and they're doing all of this damage. I think the word company is still like very loose in this context. It's not.
Yeah, it's a designation, not a
Yeah,
size.
but it's like less than 20 people, and they're just running roughshod through multiple towns.
Now, they're supposedly armed with like the best that you can kind of get in this time period, which are like early 6 shooters that were, very reliable, big old bullets, and you can kind of load up a whole, you know, cylinder and just fire for a while. Whereas a lot of other people, they're either using bows or they're using like older style muskets and stuff like that.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Um, and here's where we learn that there's a price on Glanton's head: 8,000 pesos. I did not do any conversion for that, but I assume it's a lot. And then Glanton's gang is just losing any goodwill that they may have had from the attack on the Apaches. Um, any other thoughts on chapter 13?
Nah, not really. That's just that. Yeah, that bounty on Glanton's head is posted like immediately after they go in, get the payment from the scalps and then leave. So it's like,
Well,
all right,
they
pay him,
do
get the
their
fuck out of
big
here.
party before they leave.
Well, that's kind of also at the end. They entered the city haggard, filthy, reeking with the blood of the citizenry for whose protection they had contracted. This is after they killed
Yeah.
the
This is a
lancers.
different town. Yep.
Yeah. Scalps of the slain villagers are strung from the windows of the governor's house. The partisans are paid out of the all but exhausted coffers. The Sociedad was disbanded and the bounty rescinded. Within a week of their quitting the city, there would be a price of 8,000 pesos posted for Glanton's head. So yeah, it's like they went back in, got paid, and they're like, all right, get the hell out of here.
Deuces.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while since I've gone through the story, but isn't there like the occasional detail of like a child's body being found after when they enter the town, and it's kind of presumed that it was the judge?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
that
like
happens
a
several
gross
times.
detail adding on to just how evil this man is. Yeah. It's an uncomfortable detail because it's not given the limelight that much. It's just like mentioned in the background. It feels like, and then it gets more drastic as the story goes.
Yeah, there are many hints that, or at least implications that the judge is both doing some horrible things and then killing kids, just kind of wherever they go.
I think I've missed those parts, but yeah, it wouldn't
It's
surprise me. I've caught like some of those. I don't know if it's every town, but
it's one of those things where it's very open to interpretation, and you just know that because he's
Yeah.
horrible, you don't put it past him.
um, chapter 14. I'm not going to read all of these anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of what's the important ones for here? The dogs, another well, two things. Glanton having his weird little fit, and then the judge buying the dogs from the kid and just tossing him in the river.
Yep. And then is it the Australian that starts shooting them?
Yeah, Bathcat. He's like pissing in the river or something, and they describe him holding his pizzle in one hand and his revolver in the other, and he takes out the dogs as a mercy.
Pizzle is also a fun little vocabulary word to add.
Yeah, yeah. It gets used several times, so it's not even just
Yep.
like a one-time thing. That's fun. I'm gonna call it a pizzle now.
I'm trying to think if there has to be like one part early on where they mention like someone has a pizzle in one hand and a pistol in the other, and I had to do a double take on that.
Yeah, that was Bathcat with shooting the dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. There we go. By noon, the day following, Glanton in his drunkenness was taken with a kind of fit. So this is where, this chapter opens with Glanton having an episode. He's sick or he's out of it, and I'm not sure if that's implied to be something supernatural from what the judge is doing, or if he was just a weird dude the whole time.
I think it's breaking him to some degree, and this is almost like the stress of it all kind of coming out, and the judge like kind of talks him back into it. Whereas, maybe somebody who cared would talk him out of it and be like, "Hey, yeah, you're right. Let's go home, buddy. Let's stop with the Apaches." But the judge just talks him kind of right back into it, and cools his brow, makes him feel better. But at the end of the day, they're dragging him back out to the desert.
We lost 0. Oh.
Oh no.
But yeah, there's the little boy with the little bag of puppies.
Yeah, it's like so much money. The kid like doesn't even think it's real at first.
Yeah. So back when we had currency that was actually worth something.
Yeah, right. 1 gold coin was a lot. I don't know. There is definitely something lost in just the tactile sensation that had to have been there when you just slap like a thick gold coin down. Like, I'm gonna buy all this shit, and it's just clang. Like, I've never been remotely rich enough to do anything like that, but I imagine it would have been awesome.
It's a Jimmy Neutron episode, right? When the parents are rich and they throw a giant gold bar at Carl to make him shut up and go away.
The Trailer Park Boys. I'm gonna pay you $100 to fuck off. Like,
That's
yeah.
a lot more.
Yeah, just it's scaled up a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, this is another strange chapter that's kind of
Oh, it's the judge that buys the puppies, so it's
yeah,
not.
yeah, Judge buys the puppies and then just immediately basically tosses them into the water.
Yep.
This is also where they come upon the dudes transporting the mercury and just sort of force them off the edge of the cliff because they can. They're in the way. Like it's not exactly clear, but
I must have missed that part.
yeah, blood and mercury.
Oh, we lost someone else.
Oh no.
Oh no.
We've gone late. There's so much stuff in these chapters.
Oh yeah, you know what? Oh,
Oh, the show's starting. That would explain it.
yeah, true.
Who's live
well,
tonight?
I don't know how to pronounce that guy's name. Sanoski.
Did you guys want to jump off and go with the show, or did you want to finish up?
That's up to you. I'm open. Honestly, I've been like watching the show like a day later while I do other stuff, so I haven't really been watching live. I know that's
Same.
probably
I almost
heresy to say.
always. I pretty much always watch after because I watch on double speed.
Oh Lord,
Yeah.
how can you understand Tim?
Tim's not that bad.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's not like they have Ben Shapiro on every day.
Razor Fist is really bad at double speed.
Oof.
I think I'd try like 1.25, 1.5. But yeah, Glanton gets out of his binding, and what does he do after he struggles free? Oh yeah, he cuts down the Mexican flag and he ties it to a mule, and someone shoots it out from under him.
Oh yeah, just completely disrespect, just trashing everything. Like, you know what? Screw this country. This Mexican flag. America's better. Like he comes out of his fit and has another fit.
I don't think he ever came out of the first fit.
Yeah. Just perpetual fit 24/7. That is Glanton.
Here's another one that was just funny to me. I felt like this is a good summary of the book. I think it's the judge who's talking about the suzerains.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And I think this is Toadvine. Or Toadvine goes, "What the hell's a suzerain?" Goes, a keeper, an overlord. And he says, "Why not just say keeper?" You know how much easier this book would be to read if we
Yeah,
use common words.
Yeah, use normal word. Use normal people words. God. Cormac.
Yeah, this is Toadvine and the Judge. I like Toadvine more and more the further we get.
He's great.
The freedom of birds is an insult to me. I'd have them all in zoos. So this is where we get more of the Judge talking about his book and how basically everything that exists without my consent is an insult. What is it? Everything I don't know exists without my consent. Everything that exists without my consent is an insult. And so I'm going to know everything and destroy it.
Yeah,
Is
he
that a
wants
good
to
summary of
be
it?
Master the world.
Yeah, focus of all. Well, because Satan is supposed to be like corrupted intellect, like kind of knowledge gone astray. So it's like he wants all the knowledge so that he can utilize
Destroy it
it.
all?
Yeah, well, utilize it the best he can to to
Wreak
deceive
havoc.
people and cause chaos. Like he is the deceiver.
And there's something here about wounded dogs howled and dragged themselves about until Glanton himself went out and killed them with his knife. There's the thing about like putting things down in this book that happens a lot, or putting people down, and repeatedly, I'm not quite sure in my head if it clicks that it's merciful or if it's like just callous and cruel.
I think they're doing it on purpose to like make you have to like decide if you think it's merciful or not. And it's pretty wild. I think
Yeah,
most of them aren't merciful, but you know.
yeah, it definitely seems to be written that you kind of decide the case, and yeah, if unless there's like a super major injury or somebody's like straight up dying, then maybe it's or the Apaches are on the way, that kind of thing. But it doesn't always seem to actually be a mercy.
Right. I didn't have too much for chapter 14. It was just Glanton's fit, and
there wasn't much.
more about the judge's philosophy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't as much that happens in that chapter. Now the next one is where they kind of get uh kind of beat up and scattered.
Yep, I think this is where the kid gets lost in the snowdrift or the blizzard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, where he has to to give the mercy to Shelby, and he decides not to
Yep.
because the kid is like, well, he gives people a chance often where others don't seem to.
Yeah, this is a lottery. That's the big one here. Shelby and the kid, a horse lamed.
Oh, there's actually there's something about that where he's they're going around, they're picking the arrows to see who draws lots, and the kid is going to pick an arrow, and he sees the judge looking at him and kind of smiling.
And then he picks a different one. Yep.
Yeah, and it's like he is trying to actively resist. He's like the only one who's actively trying to resist the judge. Like anything the judge seems to want, he's like, no.
So when it's Glanton who's making the lots, right? He's like putting arrows with flags in I guess it would be a quiver.
Yeah.
And then they pull out a quiver, and if it has like a red flag or not even sure what the other color is. So there's the red tassel. And is the idea that if you pull the red tassel, you have to be the executioner? Because they get into a fight, there's like 4 of them wounded. This is after they're starting to be chased by the actual like soldiery. This is the guy gets Elias. So Elias is the Mexican captain that's going after them.
Yep, and then they're chosen to be executioners. That's why the Delawares, like, they go and they take care of their own. I think it's almost like, no, we'll do it instead of whoever drew the arrow, or maybe I misread that.
So it's 4 wounded men, 2 Delawares, a Mexican, Dick Shelby. So I thought the Delaware, like one of them draws the lot because he just like goes over to him with a hammer and he like whacks them both.
Yeah, maybe I
Um,
misread that, but I read that as like somebody else drew it, but they just went over and did it anyway because
Well-
they kind of take care of their own.
That seems to be the case with the Delawares, yeah. I'm also going to say straight up, the first time that they were saying that there were Delawares in the company, I imagined Joe Biden's. I did not imagine Indians.
Yeah, I thought initially I thought it was like dudes from Delaware, like a
Yeah.
Kentucky guy or something.
That's what I've been picturing for a little bit until I was like, oh, they're Indians. That's cool.
Yeah, it wasn't until like way later in the book I'm like, oh, they've been natives this whole time.
I think it's interesting how Cormac does that, where he doesn't really give a description until like halfway through, and you're like, oh, that's way different than what I was picturing.
It's also really interesting that as racist as they all are, it's a very multi-ethnic company. Like you have white guys, you have Mexicans, you have other names I'm not gonna say, and you got Indians, natives.
I mean, there's also the part where apparently everyone in Mexico is an N-bomb, regardless of whether they're Mexican, Native American, or actually black. They're just off.
Yeah, they just use it as a catch-all for people they don't like, races they don't like.
Yeah.
Boy, they
It's
drop it a
easy.
lot.
It's an easy word.
So this was
Completely
one.
forgot about when I suggested the book. Like,
Yeah,
whoops.
you gave Grin a jump. But this is one of those things where this doesn't even warrant a full sentence. 2 weeks they massacred a pueblo on the river, and 2 days later they rode towards the Uris with scalps they encountered. They massacre a village. That's half a sentence.
Yeah, it's really interesting what gets the weight of a description, what
Yeah.
doesn't. Like, they'll talk about, the judge talking about whatever obscure philosophical point, but when it comes to the slaughter of a village, it's a line, half a line, 2 lines.
And then also with a running fight ensued in which 3 of Glanton's party were killed and another 7 wounded, 4 of whom could ride no more, or could not ride. So this is the party of, assume 18. We're down to, what, 3 killed, 15, 7 wounded, and now we got 4 more. So we're down to like 11 guys. And they're still doing all of this damage.
Yeah, I do think it's implied that they are adding some guys as they go, but the numbers are just completely like he just glosses over that to kind of let you come to your own conclusions. What is
Yeah.
described as like, yeah, it's very few, and when they do describe the number of the company, yeah, it's like 19, less than that.
Mm-hmm. We get a exchange between Shelby and the kid. This is a terrible place to die in. He goes, "Where's a good one?"
Oh yeah, yeah. The kid has this way of speaking where it's like he's like almost everything's a rebellion. Everything's like a cynical kind of turn it on its head.
So yeah, the kid is gonna go and like kill Shelby, who's unfortunately still fully with it. I think they mentioned that too. Like some of the guys that are dying are just like on their last leg. Shelby, meanwhile, got shot through the hip, so he's done, but he's like fully cognizant. And so
That's hard.
he doesn't want the kid to kill him. They're being chased by the Mexican army at this point. They're not being chased by Indians. And he wants to be left a gun, but I guess that's against the rules as far as Glanton's concerned.
Oh yeah, gun is more valuable than a man in this context.
Probably. And then, if you want me to just leave you, I will. Shelby didn't answer. Will you leave me a gun? I can't. Will you hide me? He wants to hide him in the woods, or hide him in a bush. I don't know if that's gonna do him any better.
Yeah, he basically tells him that. Where are you
He
gonna hide at?
And he goes to drag him, then he reaches for the kid's gun. Not sure if the implication is that he was going to shoot the kid. He doesn't get the chance either way.
I think it was. I think it definitely was.
Yeah, shoot the kid and get away, but
Well, he's not getting away anywhere. His leg's gone.
yeah, so he gets kind of immediately overpowered by the kid.
Yeah.
I think the intention was, or the thinking, because he's desperate. He knows he's gonna die, so it's like thinks he's gonna die anyway.
We get a nice rock and hard place thing here. They did not know how far the Mexicans were behind them, and they did not know how far the Apaches were ahead. So they're running from one, they're running towards another. It's all bad.
Yep, this is where things are starting to get really shaky in terms of like the coherency of the unit itself, the company.
And Galantin's party just made enemies of everyone because you'd think that if they were like these small-time heroes, they could have done okay as far as like working with the Mexican townsfolk against the Indians.
Yeah, no, they could, if they made a different decision, they could be heroes permanently.
Pokemon song reference?
No, they'd be the very best that no one ever was.
No, we could be heroes. It's the Gen 3 one, isn't it?
Oh, you know what? I haven't seen those seasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess.
The company halted. The heads were 8 in number.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I was just shaking my head at that point. Does that mean that they're down to literally 8 guys?
I think so, yeah. This is basically where things are falling apart.
And even in their wretched state, they glared from their saddles at the Falstaffian militia with undisguised contempt. This is...
Yeah, they come in on a town, like a little village, basically, that has its own like little militia, and the militia is armed with like essentially pipe guns and like old rifles and old muskets.
But they still let them into the town.
Yeah, I don't. It's weird.
It's like the Mexican people are like guest right is still a thing in this culture, it seems.
Yeah, so this is just like Mexican propaganda, right? That this whole book, like Mexicans are so
Yes.
friendly. You could be an absolute rampaging madman. They'll welcome you into their home. They'll feed you.
Yeah, come in, conquer your Latina, and there you go.
It's a
propaganda.
psyop the whole time.
Yep.
It was Latina propaganda the whole time. Who's Cormac McCarthy married to?
Yeah. I mean, Spanish does pop up in a lot of his books. And like
Alright.
Mexican Spanish too.
Anything else from chapter 15 that stood out to you?
The very end of it is actually something that I'm kind of puzzled on. I'm not quite sure. When they go into the barn, it's pitch black. And yeah, I guess it's just one paragraph. I'll just read it. No one moved. In that cold stable, the shutting of the door may have evoked in some hearts other hostiles not of their choosing. The mare sniffed uneasily, and the young colt stepped about. Then one by one they began to divest themselves of their outer clothes, the hide slickers, the raw wool serapes and vests, and one by one they propagated about themselves a great crackling of sparks, and each man was seen to wear a shroud of palest fire. Their arms aloft, pulling at their clothes, were luminous, and each obscured soul was enveloped in audible shapes of light, as if it had always been so. The mare at the far end of the stable snorted and shied at the luminosity and being so endarkened, and the little horse turned and hid his face in the web of his dam's flank. Like, is it supposed to be like an image of hellfire, or are they just like smoking and it freaks out the horses? Like,
Is
not 100% sure what's going on there. But it does seem to be like this is the point where they've kind of given themselves to the flame, given themselves to hellfire.
usually when people are called luminous, it's like a angelic thing.
Right, and that's why I'm saying
It's
it's
a good
weird.
flip of it. Yeah.
Like it should be like almost like a baptismal or like a holy scene. At least it's written that way, but it scares the horses. Like the mare shies away and the little baby hides his face. Like there's
So,
something dark about
so
it.
this is Glanton's company basically being, in the literal sense, they're being like housed in a horse.
Barn.
I'm saying horse barn, but stable. That's the word I'm looking for. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's something there. I'm just I'd probably have to piece it out a little bit more, but there's something going on there.
The barn smelled of clay and straw and manure. They arranged blankets and a lamp.
Leaving them in profound, absolute darkness.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's interesting.
Yeah, because
But-
basically after this point, it starts to go downhill for them, kind of hard. Also,
Yep.
you know, we completely forgot the kid when he was lost in the blizzard.
Oh, we did. Yeah, that's chapter. Is that this chapter or the one before?
The one before. 14 or 15.
I think it's 15. I remember kid sees. I thought of like the Moses burning bush when he saw the burning tree, but the tree was silent, and it was like meaning maybe that like because God spoke through the bush, but God doesn't speak through the tree, so God's not with them anymore or something. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something like that. And it's like a vigil of sorts as well. Like all the animals have come to warm themselves. Like the one thing uniting them all is trying not to freeze so they don't set upon each other. And it's almost like in the face of that holy fire, like the violence stops. Like Satan is not there. But God is not speaking. Like God is kind of not quite there.
Yeah, could be that. But like you said, yeah, this is where the kid gets separated from the rest of Glanton's company. So he's gonna go off to kill Shelby. He leaves Shelby there. Then he starts riding his horse until he runs into Tate. Tate's horse is on its last legs, and I'm not sure if I missed it. Is there an implication that Tate died or Tate got lost? Because he gets separated from Tate.
Yeah, to Shelby he leaves behind, and then he catches up with Tate, whose horse had split its hoof. So they
Right.
kind of like they take turns riding and leading, and then at some point they get separated.
And then that's when they run into the scouts from Elias.
I think
And the kid like gets the jump on them, takes one of them out or a couple of them out, and then he's on his feet in the snow and he's chasing after the rest of Glandon's company.
Yeah, that's where they get separated when
Yeah.
the scouts come on.
Yeah, so
And I don't
Tate
think it's
turns.
I think it's assumed that Tate dies out there because I don't think he's
Oh,
destroyed.
I don't think
he's
he comes
abandoned.
back.
He's
Yep.
totally abandoned. Bye. So sad.
I mean, the
Tate.
kid's abandoned too at this point.
Oh yeah.
Rip Tate. Yeah, man, Tates are just not having a good time in general, are they?
Guess not. Yeah, so this is where he's chasing after like the tracks and the fires that they see off in the distance. And I think this is also when the Van Diemen lander, the Australian, is finally dead, which was foreshadowed like way early on.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And their method of death is awful, and it does show you why they take each other out when it looks like you're too wounded to keep up.
Yep.
Because they hung them over the fire, and then let the fire basically bubble their brains in their skulls, and that's only after they cut off like their ears and cut their bodies so that their
His
intestines
tongue
fall
is
out.
like hanging through his.
Yeah, they took a
You
spit.
got necktied, right?
Well, I think the way I described it, or I took that, was that they took something sharp and like stuck it through the tongue so that it was like forced out. But yeah, maybe it is like a necktie type thing. Basically,
And it was the.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say it was the two Delawares. It was someone else, and then the Van Diemen lander. And I'm. Oh, and when they find them, they're all like. They're all as disheveled as they've ever been. But go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that it's interesting that this is juxtaposed right there with, the kid what do you want to call it, showing mercy to Shelby, but like that's what happens if you don't go the mercy route, assuming you get caught. And I think the kid's whole thing is, everybody gets a chance to get away.
Yeah, here we are. The two darker forms are the last of the Delawares, and the other two are the Van Diemen Lander and a man from the east named Gilchrist. Or Gilchrist. Oh, and then this is the point where they try and tell us that the company was actually like really cool with how progressive they were, because among their barbarous hosts they had met with neither favor nor discrimination, but had suffered and died impartially. I'm calling bullshit.
Look, I mean, they've slaughtered dozens, hundreds, even thousands of innocent people. They've scalped them. They've even raped some people, implied. But
It's
at
not
least-
implied. That's explicit.
yeah. But hey, look, at least they were diverse.
Diversity was their strength.
Truly, but explain McGill.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're racist, but we're not racist. It actually reminds me of like the meme of internet racists. They have a friend group that's all different nationalities that are all racist.
Yep. But we do get the I think it's the next chapter where they do stick up for is it Jackson?
Oh yeah, Jackson, my boy.
Oh yeah, where they try and kick him out of the bar because he is.
They don't even try to kick him out of the bar. They tell him to sit in the back of the bus or the back of the bar.
Yeah, you get the shoddy table in the back.
Yep.
Where is that? Let's see. I'm
That's
lost.
chapter 16.
Oh yeah, okay, you're right. I missed.
Yeah, take a note, Rosa Parks. This is how you do it.
Yep.
But
This
is
one
not how
made
you
me
do it.
laugh. This is chapter 16. They run into the madmen. So it's two German guys that are like they're keeping themselves safe in a church. And one of the guys in Glanton's crew like shoots one of the guys. I guess he's like in the church tower or something. And the judge starts talking to him, and it says like they don't speak English, they don't speak Spanish. So the judge starts talking to him in German, and Glanton spat, or shot the other one too. He said. The judge smiled. He goes, "I don't like it. I don't like to see white men that way." Glanton said, "Dutch or whatever. I don't like to see it. Dutch." That part
Dutch
got
or
me
whatever.
so good. Because of course they start speaking, German. So of course they sprechen le Deutsch.
Glanton is hilarious in such a messed up way.
I thought that was great. That one gave me a really good chuckle. They run into like another authority group, and Glanton's horse bites the other guy's horse's ear. Everyone just keeps giving them opportunities because somehow, despite everyone being a barbarian, the Mexicans are all just super hospitable.
Yeah, everybody gives them a chance, and that's kind of like, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. It gives you chance after chance after chance to try and make things right, and these guys just like perennially refuse to repent or do anything other than be awful.
Yeah.
Except for, the kind of three that we talked about that kind of still have some semblance of humanity left.
And even then, it's not like they're resisting too much.
Yeah, they're just kind of they may not be engaging as actively, but they're still there. Still condoning it.
Yeah. There's a throwaway line here. Glanton and the judge went out to see if they could recruit any men from the rabble, reposing in the dust of the square. So, like, they're picking up onesies and twosies wherever they can get them. But I think they mentioned this like twice, so that they're not picking up many people at all.
Yeah, it's probably a hard sell.
Yeah. There's also a part somewhere here where the judge offers to be Glanton's lawyer.
Oh yeah, the judge
Um,
is just he's everything. He's
Yeah,
such
he's multi-talented, physically fit.
he's just such a bullshitter. Like, and because like I'm not exactly an expert in all the shit that he's talking about, we don't even know a lot of the stuff that he's saying if it's even remotely true. He could just be lying constantly.
Yeah, it could be. Shout out to Tim. The judge is there, citing cases civil and martial. He quoted Coke and Blackstone and Axamander and Thales. Blackstone, Tim's favorite.
Oh yeah.
You don't understand. We didn't shoot the bartender, but even if we did, better than 10 guilty men. Um,
Like, you can't pick out which of us exactly was the guilty one, and that would just be a violation.
all right, here's Glanton looked up. Who's Mr. Owens? Mr. Owens is the gentleman who ran the eating house down here. He's been shot to death. Sorry to hear it, Glanton said. And then this is when they just outright deny ever being in the building, despite however many witnesses told the police.
Yeah,
Oh,
and it gets to the point where the police officer, he doesn't even he just goes away. He's just so dumbfounded. He's like, I can't believe they lie like that. Just that bold-faced.
Yep.
Excellent.
This is when they sit down in the place, and then the Owens goes up to the group, and it's like Jackson, Glanton, it's like 4 of them. He tells him that he has to go. Like, what is it? Gentlemen, we don't mind serving people of color.
So he's talking about all of them too. It was funny.
No, I'm laughing because people of color. This book was published in 80. What?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
making the
I
rounds,
forgot to
guys.
Everything is a circle.
Yeah.
I mean, horseshoe theory.
I don't even know if this is horseshoe theory. This is flat brain lib. 1985. There are people of color then. There are people of color again.
Dang, man.
Glad to do it. We asked him to sit over there at this other table. There he goes. What's he talking about? He thinks. Oh, it's Toadvine there. Toadvine's looking at Jackson. They're all looking at Glanton.
The sheriff is a what?
Glanton raised his hand, and then they ask Owens if he's got a gun. He says, "I don't have it on me." And who throws him the gun? Is it Glanton or is it
I think it's not Jackson. It's
Brown? Brown
Brown.
goes. Brown asks the owner Owens. He goes, "Got a gun?" He says, "No." Brown pulls out a small 5-shot Colt, pitches it to him. He catches it. He got one now. Now shoot. Tells him to shoot Jackson. Then Owens doesn't want to shoot Jackson. And Jackson shoots Owens. Blows his head clean off.
with a double handful of his brains.
Yep. Double handful of Owens' brains went out the back of his skull, plopped on the floor behind him. And then I think Glandon tells someone in the crew to just go and get plates because they think the waitress left. Yeah, find some plates, Charlie. I doubt the old lady is out there anymore. Then the last thing I remember from this chapter is the weird puppies. They've got a litter of dogs, one with 6 legs, one with 2 legs, a third with 4 eyes. And they offer to sell them to Glanton, and Glanton tells them to get the hell away from me, or I'll shoot you.
Yeah, and that's right after they point out there was the young Mexican girl missing.
Yep.
They just found her bloody clothes and then she's gone.
And they were gonna start like a posse to go after her, and then that never happens, and instead they do some like weird ritual thing.
Yeah, just once again, wherever the judge goes, kids seem to disappear and die.
That's great.
Yeah, that was 16, right?
That's 16. There's something at the end. By now, many of Glanton's men were naked and lurching about, and the judge soon had them dancing while he fiddled on a crude instrument he'd commandeered. So there's a lot of this also that, like, I'm not sure how much of the barbarism is just being orchestrated by the judge, just him being there.
Yeah, he's fiddling, like literally, like he's not just like fiddling and playing here. It's almost like they're figuratively they're marching to the tune of his fiddle. Like he plays them, like however he wants, wherever he wants.
Yep, this is right after the Blackstone bit. In the morning, there was new trouble. A young Mexican girl had been abducted. Parts of her clothes were torn and bloodied. And she had to have been thrown over the wall. The father's, of course, very distraught, and like it seems some people start looking, and then it just goes to hell from there. Night fires were lit. Glant and his men were host to a motley collection of citizens and soldiery. And then they just break out a keg of whiskey, and they seem to forget about all the other stuff.
Yeah, sounds about par for the course for these guys.
And then, like, when you get the stuff about Glanton's men were naked and lurching around, when you're imagining this, are you imagining that Toadvine, Tobin, and the kid are part of this, or you think they're somehow separate?
Yeah, I don't think so. Because whenever he talks about them, he refers to them specifically. And it seems like whenever he talks about Glanton's men, he's talking like more generally about like the others who have been completely bought into it.
I refuse to picture my boy doing that.
Your boy is being Toadvine? Or?
Yeah, Toadvine. My boy, he would never do that. So yeah, no, I'd never picture them doing that. I was like separate by themselves.
And then it ends with the wager where the judge is tossing the anvil and all that stuff.
Yep, and for whatever reason, Glanton doesn't want to bet on it. I'm not even sure how this bet would work, because the end of it's like they're betting how far he's going to throw it. So like they're drawing lines and they're throwing money on the lines. So it's like a craps table, but like, how do you win that? It's not roulette.
I think it's like you get all the money, like you throw it to a certain point, you get all the money between then and you, like in between that, something like that, probably.
Well, it would have to be like the people who bet long would be the ones who lose, because you're like betting he's not going to get that far.
Maybe
I don't know.
Maybe you get the money if I don't know.
You get the money ahead of where your money is?
Yeah, if it's close but doesn't hit it. I don't. Yeah, it's very unclear. Sorry, instructions unclear. Put an ass.
They were drunk. They didn't even know what they were playing. So
They're just throwing money out there. Some of them are throwing out fake money too. That was funny. They're throwing out like fiat of countries that don't exist anymore.
Yeah, they just gambling men. They don't care what they're gambling about.
I don't even know how I win. Yeah, the lines were drawn in dirt and 10 feet apart. A third round of wagers coined from half a dozen countries in both gold and silver, and even a few boletos are noticed of discontinued scripts. Mine's near Tubac. I don't even know where Tubac is.
Yeah, I don't. My brain went Tubac, and to like all those
Arizona.
stupid memes.
Oh, it's
It cleared
Arizona.
It cleared the mark by a foot, and he shared with no one. Whatever, Specky.
Yeah, you remember those really old memes with like the polar bear? It's like it's happening, or the little bear. It's happening. That's just what I think of when I see Tubac. It's like Tubac, Tubac Skur.
And the judge won the bet because he's the one collecting the piles of. Yeah, you know what? I'm calling BS on this one. That this game makes no sense. This is worse than Quidditch.
Yeah, once again,
true.
rigged for the judge to win.
Are they all just betting with the judge? Like, I bet you can't throw it past here.
I think that's something to do with it. Like, all right, you can't lift it. Oh shit, he lifted. All right, you can't throw it. All right, you can't throw it that far.
Yeah, because he
whatever
he lifts it, then he lifts it above his head, and then he yeets it.
Yeah, those are the 3 stages.
All right, so that's chapter 16. We went for about an hour 40,
Yeah,
maybe
hour
2 hours if
40,
we were
yeah.
running long.
That's what I'm at.
Hopefully, we gave a good show. I'm gonna have to put up a poll for the next book because we've got the last third of it now,
Oh yeah.
and
Yep. No, I'm having a
we'll
lot of
see
fun.
if we're gonna keep doing Thursdays or keep doing Fridays, or see if we want to change days. But yeah, I'm glad you're all enjoying this.
That was excellent. Thanks for setting this up as always.
Yeah, thank you.